Call to order the Board of Education Committee of the whole meeting for Thursday,
Hey, you made
April
it.
28th, 2022. The Board of Education makes available at least one current copy of the Open Meetings Act, which is posted on the west wall of the meeting room and accessible to members of the public. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is approved. First on the agenda is a discussion of the middle school site plan, and we have Dr. Nielsen, Mr. Hickey, and Mr. Stengel.
Wonderful. Well, good evening. We are excited to have our middle school talk about their site plan. So remember, last month we had our elementary. This month we have the middle school, and they're going to talk about what different things that they pulled out of the district plan to help support it through the site plan. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them talk about it, and you have a copy of that in front of you.
All right, good evening. So I've pulled out a strategy from each of the 5 that the board had adopted for our strategic plan. So I'm gonna highlight 5 of the specific ways that we'll address and look at reaching the district strategic plan. But there's obviously more that we've put into that. So if you have any questions after I'm going through this on things that I didn't cover in here, feel free to ask, and I'll explain those as best as possible. So strategy 1, the district plan is design and develop, implement new and existing buildings and technology infrastructure that are adaptable to the new curriculum and instruction involving needs of individuals and communities. The way that we're gonna look at that in middle school in relation to addressing areas of concern for safety and security is I'm looking through getting quotes and walking through companies for addressing an increase of vaping within our school building. Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of that within the younger our students are, and primarily the point of concern is within our restrooms. So I've met with several of our several different companies, Dio, Kidwell, our ESU 5 individuals to walk through our buildings to see what that would entail running the Cat 6 or the Cat 5 cable, whatever it needs to run those devices into our restrooms, how many we need and so forth. So that is something I look to, looking at ESSER's 2 money to fund with. So that's one area under strategy 1. So, and I can ask any questions if I can. I'm just going to go to 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you have anything under 1, you can feel free to ask me now or save it till later, and I'll keep moving for sake of time. Strategy 2 is all about social and emotional learning within the regular operations of the school. So this is a way, how are we going to systematically approach mental health needs within our school setting? So one of the ways that we're looking at doing within our school is adopting a school-wide screener, mental health screener, and what that would look. There's various different screeners. The DESA or the DESA Mini is one that we're looking into. But what that would look like is asking our student body questions about where they're at in terms of their mental health needs. So that way we can systematically look at under tier 1, which is meaning all of our students get these services and these supports, and what do all students need in the social emotional realm, and then based on that survey that we send to students, what students that we need to identify need additional supports in the social emotional learning under a tier 2, and then under a tier 3, and I can get into the depth of that MTSS process, but generally speaking, about 80 to 85% of our students will be successful with tier 1 supports. What are we doing with all of our kids? And then using the screener, what kids, about 15 to the other 15 to 25, 15 to 20%, what students need additional supports, and how are we going to put that roadmap into place? So the screener is something that right now what we use is informal teacher observation, counselor observation, administrative observation throughout the school day, in the school year to bring out what supports we offer those students. This would be a screener that they tell us they need, so that we can kind of have a proactive approach in that. Strategy 3 is talking about recruiting, retaining, and developing high-quality staff, faculty, administration. This one is, right now, the middle school, I believe, has three or four non-tenured teachers, and we have a very veteran staff, which is great. Great teachers, they're very sound in the classroom. What that's gonna mean for us at the middle school level is we're gonna need to recruit new teachers, and a lot of them in the next 3 to 5 years. So, Craig and I, Mr. Stingle and I talked about really, when we can get candidates in the door, you've got a short amount of time for them to tell our story and sell what Beatrice Middle School has to offer. So developing a marketing strategy, a short video clip in that interview process of what we're all about, to try to win those quality candidates over in that short amount of time that we have them. So that's something we're gonna work on developing, so we can, within that hour interview process, when they walk out the doors, I wanna teach there. Cause we're gonna have 15 to, probably about 15, I would guess, that's a rough number in the next couple of years, 3 years-ish, that'll look in at retirement. So, number 3 is a focal point at the middle school. Number 4 is provide research-based instructional delivery strategies and meet each student's unique learning needs. More specifically, developing and implementing plans to give students opportunities to learn about a variety of different career fields. So 2 things here. Number 1, we did have, I don't know if that's been board approved at this point, Mrs. Pinkerton is moving into a new role. Mr. Hoagland is moving into computer applications position. He is very excited about that. Technology is kind of his niche. And I think within that position, we're gonna look at what sort of opportunities can we use in technology as opposed to mostly keyboarding. Can we look to expand that into robotics, 3D printing, computer programming, computer networking, those sort of things on a module basis, to try to get kids exposure to career fields. Technology career fields just are continuously evolving and expanding. So we're gonna look at essentially an overhaul of that computer curriculum. So that's something that's gonna be exciting, developing in the next few years. Secondary part to that one is I've challenged our exploratory teachers to create partnerships with our local businesses, to bring them into our exploratory classes, to talk about, like art, graphic design and marketing, and how do we do that in a job perspective. We've also talked about development of a possible career day at the middle school, to bring in local businesses and get exposure for the kids to sit down and listen to people that are in those jobs and what it takes, and pros and cons, the college, the not college, those sort of things as they go into high school and transition, to see what classes they want to look at and explore. So try to get them more acclimated to what's out there, because we're not able to offer all those classes in the middle school. So if we can bring in a career day, we're going to try to reach that strategy that way. And the 5th one is developing district-wide systems to enhance student learning. And this is something we're working on right now. So essentially, we're developing our PBIS, a positive behavior intervention support system, which is outlining clear behavioral expectations, and from grade 6, 7, 8, all our teachers are on board, and putting that in a tiered model, very much so like the social emotional learning. So that's all I've got in that, and I probably spoke too long, but kind of questions do you guys have for me?
None for me. Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a summer project update.
So as Roy's coming up, and in keeping with the tradition of having our head buildings and grounds representative talk to the board a little bit about plans for the summer, we just wanted to make sure that we're communicating that with you, so we've actually put this together. Take over.
All right. I've noticed I've misspelled a few words in here, so, hey, don't hold that. I start panicking when you're. Anyway, what I put together, I call it the top 12 list. It's basically the top 12 things that our goal is to get done this summer. 3 of them, basically, the resurfacing of the track was supposed to have been done last year, and then it just kept tumbleweeding down the road. It's going to be done this year, supposedly going to be done at the end of May, right when, right after school gets out. There'll be basically a 2 weeks where people can't get on it, but that will all get posted. The park, and that's 90,000, could be a little bit more, because that was last year's price. I'm sure it's a lot higher now. The parking lot asphalt is something that we've done in 4-year increments, and it's the last section of the parking lot out at the high school, basically, before you get into the field where people park for football games, that section right in there. And the Midwest Door is a company that's going to put in that small gym, the small gym's set of doors. We had the ones put in the back of the back of the ozone, and this is in the ox side. Both those doors were so screwed up from people yanking on them and pulling them and everything else that it's a safety issue, basically. I've got them L-bracketed shut, because you can't lock them, and you can always they'll just pull open. So that's going to be done on between May 24th and May 26th. And that's about how much the last set cost, about 6 months ago, when we got those done. Bleachers repair, I just met with Lee French today, and everything worked on them, which is funny. It's like if you take the car to the shop. But anyway, they all worked out great. What it does is it makes a bit of a whining sound and stuff like that. So I've asked him to put together a price on what it would cost to basically service these pumps and make sure that everything works. I think sometimes they just get a little bit mistreated, and if you run them with the cord, then it's really not an issue. But if one person's running the cord, somebody's trying to pull or something like that, it offsets them a little bit, and they run like within a quarter or half inch of your black lines, and that's why there's boards on that one side to balance it. Another thing we want to get done is painting at the house of orange, the orange part behind the house of orange, so it stands up. It's a little more pink right now. Probably good in October, but maybe not so much. And the goalposts, we want to figure out how to paint the goalposts. Room 110 at the high school. Our big snowstorm we had this year was like 1.5 inches, and there was 1.5 inches of snow going down the wall, right where the window comes together, and so we pushed it together from both sides and locked it, and there was snow, and so there's something not right, and we're going to take a peek at that. Of the other things, like the food science room, I've already got the hoods in. I just got to put them in and replace them. The cooling tower pump, the large heat exchanger, and condensate drains, basically, and air vents, is all going to be done with current, and there's some things that need to be done. But the large heat exchanger, just so you know, that's hooked up to the cooling tower and the heat pump loop. It needs to be taken apart, cleaned, and replace the gaskets. That's a pricey thing, but just like anything else, if you don't service this, you're gonna pay a lot more in the end, and it depends on how you wanna, gonna dance with the devil either way, you might as well, to me, you gotta get them cleaned, and they only last so long, it's been, what, 5 years?
Yeah, it's been at least 5 years,
And
yeah,
They're supposed to be done every
So-
3, or 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
cleaning them. And there's just a,
there's some real fine sand in the cooling
Yeah.
tower too, so we gotta, Roy and I are gonna pump that out this summer. And that fine sand ends up in the heat exchanger too, so.
so this will.
There is a strainer, but it doesn't get it all.
Doesn't get all of it, it's
So-
like you're paying for gold. And the new floor for the weight room, that is on site, it just has to be put in, and that's a goal. The other additional items are just things we wanna work on. You'll see down here it says repair bomber shed, I put that all back together, and then, got run and pick up the snowflake, hit it again, boom. So I got it all back together one more time, but, it's gonna need some work. It's got issues. Middle school, the main things I wanna get done over there, if it all works out, what I'd like to do is, you go down the stairs in the boiler room. Everything comes in 15-gallon containers, and they're like 120 pounds. And you gotta put them on a two-wheeler, one guy in front, one guy in the back. Guy backwards goes backwards down the stairs with him. That's a safety hazard by all it's just crazy. There's gotta be a way to hook a winch up in there, that we can cut those bars off, and then have a platform with a basket, basically, that we can put that on it and winch it down. It's the safest way to go. Shouldn't cost a whole lot if we can figure out how to get it. Farmers Co-op down here would just leave theirs unhinged for a weekend or something. We could get there, I'm just saying. But that's where I was sitting there looking at this going, man, this is a lot easier than trying to figure out to manhandle these things down the stairs, because everybody's getting old. And pretty soon somebody's gonna get run over by them coming down. If it comes off that deal, that's a monster. There is a sprinkler head in the cafeteria. It's over on the 5th table in there that leaks, and it's in the fire suppression line. And that's a fire, you guys, you're gonna have to take a look at this and see, because it doesn't leak a lot, but I don't want that to become an issue if we ever had a fire. A safety thing, basically, of, I don't know where it's leaking from, it's just, tile just gets soaked, and not soaked like gonna fall in, but just gets a little ring gets bigger and bigger on it. If you just take a look at it, you'll see, on that, and the rest of it is the industrial tech ramp that goes down into that industrial tech room. They hadn't really been using it, and it's just like a skeleton. There's nothing on it, and it needs to get either. We looked at drywall, but I'm thinking maybe we put something in case it does leak again. Of putting something like like in the kitchen.
Or P-panel.
Yeah, something like that we could put right down on it. Maybe throw some insulation in it, but just something that would, if it does get wet, it's not gonna ruin it. And I don't wanna waste the money. The rest of it is things you can read. The preschools and elementaries, we're not gonna do a whole lot at them, because it becomes pointless. But I just wanna make sure safety issues are addressed. We've got a couple of outside lights over at Paddock that don't seem to work all the time. There's some glass on the grounds over by Stoddard right now, they got mixed in with the gravel from the episode. There's a few dangling tree branches, every time I clean them out, here comes another one from the giant winds. And so I don't want anybody getting smoked, getting those done. But other than that, toilet sinks and summer cleaning basics will be done just as normal. The things I found out, I've been short so many people, I've been cleaning in a lot of these schools. And, you're looking at building a school, just keep this in mind. In Lincoln, about 3 weeks ago, I was working over there, and the wind was blowing, things were shaking. The ceiling tiles that are in would be the west side by the boiler room, all right, there's a section in there. They were very loose, and so I shot some, oh my God, some caulk up in it, just to make them stay, right? And I got this one section, put the ladder over, looking at the other one fell down, hit me in the head. Those are asbestos tiles. So, yeah, so I shot it all up, got it right back up in place, put some little plastic gloves on, but it was one of those quick deals. Over at Stoddard last night, I was vacuuming over there, and the carpet pads underneath them are so worn out that the carpet went up in the vacuum and sucked it right up in there. And I sat there and I'd take the vacuum apart and start pulling the carpet back out, because it's all wrinkly up in the second room coming down. And that's the one that when you carpet clean in there, everything smells like cat pee, and it stinks really, really bad. And so this year I'm gonna put, just using a dry carpet cleaner in there. You know, the other ones, I don't get that whiff, but wow. So you're making the right choice, doing some things with school, because has some issues. Other than that, the bus barn, we've got a couple more things that we're trying to do, you'll see that. And then a couple things, just keep this in the back burner of your mind in the future. The who needs, basically, to me, it needs like a little concession bathroom on the visitor side. There's gotta be water down there by the welding area. Should be able to build something right there that we could have bathrooms for men and women, and a small concession stand. Probably increase your sales and eventually you'd pay for it. But if you had just a small version of a concession stand over there. And then the other would be at the Havilon. It needs an electrical upgrade. I got an estimate on it, it was about 40 grand. And Jason said, ooh, no. And anyway, but
We'll
it's,
have to talk to Helen Foundation about
Yeah.
that.
but it needs like new electrical panels is what it basically do. You can't put the dimmer light bulbs in there, because when you put them in, they only last like a month. Those things are $155 a piece now. So I put in $25 light bulbs, and it's been working fine now, so. But it's one of those things that just needs upgraded. If you're gonna make it into a showpiece, which I think it should be, it's time to spend some cash on it.
Where'd you get your estimate for the Adjournment?
That was from, the dude, he's the one that put it in.
Philip High?
No, this is done by a guy in Omaha that he put in, he did the electrical back 20-some years ago.
I think the original company put it in.
Yeah, and they're the ones that kind of, I'm not sure who upgraded it, like whatever it was, 10, 15 years ago. But a lot of what they're doing is fighting what's already in there. And so that's what's been part of the issue. But I can get you that. It's in my phone. I didn't bring my phone.
Are we obligated to go with that same company since they installed it?
No, this guy was he was very good to work with. It was one of the first guys I met here that I worked with, trying to get that thing so we could dim things for graduation. And he got it up and running quick. And then he's been giving me different things, like equipment to use, to try this. And he goes, I've got plenty of that, just keep it. And so I thought that was kind of nice.
Sure.
Any questions on any of that? Just today, I was playing out here in the front yard. I got 14 sprinkler heads, they're all working now. I have one that I can't, it's gonna be questionable. But there's always has to be one. But, you know, we'll do the mowing. You know, we're short people, and that's just nature of the beast. But we'll get through this, and life goes on.
Do you foresee anything lingering out there that you didn't put on this list that might keep you up at night that?
You know, I don't right now. I've talked to a couple of people on some items that we were going to do over at Corps building and at Paddock, and their staff is going to do some of that, so that's the only thing, is trying to get in there and to get some things, because you can't go in there when there's people in there, and you just wanna make sure that it's presentable, everything's presentable. No matter what happens, everybody goes to school, everybody goes to one place that's accessible to learn and that. I put this on here basically because I'm in charge of buses and stuff, buses, vans, trucks. And this is basically where we're at, this is what, I've been here a year and 3 days now. Nothing happened.
Did you bring donuts?
We forgot to tell him that. 1 year anniversary, you gotta
And, but I put on here basically the years of all the buses, the years of our trucks, the years of our vans. I want you to know where the money goes, like when we've had breakdowns or whatever. This is in the last year. Some of the, like the buses, some of these are inspections also. They have to have a yearly inspection. And we bought tires. So when you buy tires for buses, anything that gets below 30 seconds of tread, that becomes a safety issue, and we're wanting to buy tires for them. Those tires are $400 a piece or better. And they're just gonna go higher, so. just-
Appears like bus number 3 is kind
It's
of a
got some
money cut.
issues.
Bus number 3, just needed some love. It's,
Was it a used vehicle when we purchased it?
no, I don't know about that. It was,
Prior to my time.
yeah.
Oh, sure.
It's 9 years old, I mean, realistically, it's the U-joints, the 4 tires, the alternator went out over at Nebraska City.
Yeah.
And so, we probably paid a little more to get it back, but then again, they were gonna hold our players hostage, so.
We had a truck with 142,000 miles and we spent $12 in repairs.
Yes. We haven't had to,
We
we hadn't
should
put
bring
any
that
money in
donuts.
that
I
one.
want that car.
Yeah.
I want this
But-
car down here that's got 195,000, we spent 0 repairs.
And we haven't ran it.
I don't think.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like.
It has the same mileage on it since last year. All the tires are
This is
flat.
just repairs this year?
Yeah, this is just,
Oh, I
This
thought
is
this
just
was the
this
life
year.
of the vehicle, and I was like, yowzy, this
this is just since I came. Now, if you'll note on here, I just want you to see all the pickups that we use. Now, that truck, that's the food truck. That truck 2016 is the food truck we haul food around with. Realistically, when the schools get built,
We may not.
probably won't need it. You can use it for other things. But the other 4 pickups, is, we have a 2006, 2003, 1998, 1997. I want you to know on there that 1998 one, the truck fell in half and just bent down. And so there's no trucks out there to buy that you can afford that are decent pickups, and what we've got in this wasn't too bad, so basically we took it in and we got the frame welded. We welded it heavy, put in new brake lines and new gas lines in it because it tore all that out. And we've been using it because we needed to plow snow. There's only so many of them that plow snow, and then we didn't have any snow, so hey,
We got lucky.
realistically, do you wanna take a chance on it? I think I would give it another year myself because we got the money into it. But somewhere down the line, this is why I wanted you to see this, is we're gonna have to upgrade a little bit for a pickup and probably a van. The vans are all getting older, most of them are, in that 12 to 15 year range. They've all done their purpose, they've served it well. We had to put in a transmission into number 11, it's the only handicap van we had, and it broke down the day before Christmas.
So do you have a vehicle replacement plan?
I thought we did, I was just gonna ask the same thing, I thought we had something that we were,
Yeah,
I think.
that we had scheduled for replacement.
yeah, I did too.
I think we do. I think it's probably some Terry stuff. We'll just have to hunt it
Okay.
up, but yeah. And I would say that, in all honesty, we've had that pickup on the radar screen to replace, even clear back into last spring, so last year. But problem we ran into is there were no slightly used or there were no vehicles out there to be had. So but we do have, we've been in contact with both of the dealerships here in town that as soon as they can, you know, they feel like they have one that fits the mold of being able to be a good work pickup and push snow at the same time, give us a call
And they told us about one, it was 20 years old. And it had more miles than these, and they wanted $21,000 for it.
Yeah. I believe it.
So we've just kind of been trying to wait for things to
When you
settle.
said
For a pickup.
both dealerships, don't we have three?
Yeah, all three, yep, I missed it.
Okay.
And so I just want you to see where we're at on them, so that way you got that information.
Thanks.
I'm all about the information. And if you have any other questions or not. The backers are on
So how was your
the
first year?
It's been an interesting year, I'll not lie. I've learned a lot.
You run around a lot.
Yeah, and it'd be nice when we put all this together. You know, sometimes you blow things apart to get it to where it needs to be. And I think we're gonna get there. It's, you know, at Paddock, we had our first full crew of housekeepers since I've been here, on my first year anniversary. So that was kinda cool to have all of them there. It took a year, but we did it.
How many people are you short?
Right now, well, just with injuries out and different things. Like today, I was down 9 out of 22. So, yeah, it's a challenge. But, hey, get it done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Roy.
Thanks for it.
you can keep these, you know.
All right.
Good reading at night. Thank you.
Next, Dr. Nielsen's gonna talk to us about meal prices.
Absolutely. Okay, so we know that for the last 2 years, the USDA has provided COVID-19 child nutrition response waivers to provide no-cost meals to all students. However, at this point in time, the USDA has not, Congress has not given the USDA authority. So, we do not know if they are going to extend. We do not know if they are going to approve new waivers, so we are kind of in limbo. We have received guidance from our State Department of Education, so we are following the guidance from the State Department of Education just to make sure that we're ready to go in August. So, at this point in time, there is no formula that we are supposed to use. We are given 3 options that we will utilize to determine lunch prices for next year. Option number 1 is if we have a negative food service account balance, we must raise prices to ensure that the prices will help move the account to a positive balance. Option number 1 does not deal with our food service. Don Holtis and her staff do an amazing job of making sure that that stays in the black. Option number 2, if we have a positive balance, we can choose to do nothing with the prices. Option number 3, if we have a positive balance, we can choose to raise prices to address the increased cost of food and supplies due to the continuation of supply chain disruptions and staffing shortages. We would fall within 2 or 3. So that is where we would fall. So at this point in time, I've met with Don Holtis and we've discussed the options. We would recommend that we would move forward with option number 3. She is having trouble finding supplies. We know that that's a valid concern. We're also having trouble staffing. I know that Mrs. Replogle continues to talk about how she could use another food service person over at her building because she has a large number of students and has 2 food service reps that are over there serving lunch. And so most of the time, it is Mrs. Harris and Mrs. Replogle that are also serving lunch at lunchtime too. So what we would like to do is look at raising breakfast and lunch prices for full pay students and adults by 10 cents. Is what we will look at. This will help us continue to be able to offer meals, pay for the product, and keep our accounts in a positive balance. Additionally, this year we also have had a number of items which have broken down in the kitchen, so we've had to replace those too. The beautiful thing is Don's budget replaces it all. So she has, again, maintained a very good budget, made sure that she's able to cover everything, not only the meals, but also all of the equipment. That whether it's at the high school, whether it's in middle school, anywhere else, she's able to help with that. So, by the 10 cents, we will be able to make sure that we are able to cover everything if we look at the 10 cents. The cost will not be approved until the June board meeting, because we want to give enough time, just in case Congress does make a decision or something else happens, that we would have time to change before the board has made a final decision and approved it. So, you have an updated list of prices in there, and you can see that prices jumped the 10 cents. The one thing though, if you notice, the adult lunch prices were raised because they had to be raised. So they were raised to the $4, they maintained at that $4. And so I asked Dawn, I said, do we need to raise them? She said, no, I don't think we do. I think that $4 will help me cover whatever I need to do for an adult lunch. So that is where we are at with meal prices.
And with that $4 adult lunch price, you are all welcome to come eat at the school anytime you'd like.
Yes.
Price in town.
Well, where else do you eat for $4?
Yeah, you can't beat that,
I
can
mean,
you?
really.
It's pretty darn good and it's pretty darn cheap, so you're welcome anytime.
Next up is Dr. Nielsen once again with bus transportation fees, and I'm gonna go ahead and say, following that will be the K-5 social studies curriculum survey.
Okay, perfect, so I'll just keep rolling. Okay, so, bus transportation fees. I get to be the bearer of great news tonight. Just talking about reality is what I'm looking at with these. So, in looking at transportation fees, we currently assess students a $130 fee. If they are at the parochial schools, middle school, high school, or some elementary students, or they do not meet the state statute requirements, which fall within the special education, their IEP deems that they need transportation, or they are rural students that live the 4 miles away. So, a couple numbers from this year, we have 639 students riding PK through 12. This does not include the 2 special education buses. One of the things that are nice about the 2 special education buses is we know that we always will need 2. Beth Hoekstra takes care of that, she sets that up, she has all the names, she works with first student with Kim, and they get everything going. But we have 137 preschoolers that ride the buses, and that is door-to-door service for our preschoolers. Our K-5, there are 321 students that ride the K-5 bus. Middle school, there's 109, and high school, there are 72 students. So that gets us to that total of 639. This year, we also decreased 2 routes. This was the first year that we reduced the 2 routes, and we reduced also the neighborhood stops. We had a lot of places where we were going a block, stopping, a block, stopping, a block, stopping, and we said, okay, no more of that. So some students have to walk a little bit farther. Other students may not because they have the luxury of living right next to a bus stop. But it has worked out. I will tell you, it has been nice. I mean, we haven't heard many complaints. Parents are working with it, students are working with it, so it has worked out. Plus, it's allowed the buses not to have to make all of those stops. The savings of reducing those 2 routes was $12,000, approximately $12,000 per month. So you're looking at, we pay transportation for 10 months, so $120,000 a year for this year was our savings. What?
Overall,
Overall, yep, overall, yes.
how much does it cost per route?
Oh, I would have to go get the sheet. I looked at it today and I did not write that down. Probably
That's why
right
I asked.
around 5,000 to 6,000. It depends upon, per month.
Okay, so assuming 9 months, 54,000.
Yes, yep. Yeah, our monthly bill for transportation, was right around 56,000 for all.
Okay.
Yeah. So we also know that we have a current contract with First Student until 2025. That was approved by the board, and that does also allow a 3 to 4% increase yearly. So we know that rates will continue to go up. We also know that the price of diesel is going up, as well as the price of your staffing too. So we know that there are increases. So we are going to recommend that we do increase our bus transportation fee. We would like to look at increasing it to $160 to cover the increased cost of diesel and staffing. But please note that any student who qualifies for free or reduced lunch will be able to waive this fee. The other thing is that we do allow parents to break the cost down to monthly over 10 months. So if you're looking at monthly over 10 months, you'd be looking at $16 per month. Or if you break it down to 9, it might be right around that $18 mark if you do 9 months. They could do it quarterly. I know that Renee works with parents very closely to make sure that they can afford the transportation. And when we compare ourselves to Crete and Lincoln, we are still pretty cheap. So with our transportation, yes, I know that it costs money, and it would be wonderful if we could transport everyone for free. It'd be wonderful if we could continue the meals for free for everyone too, because I know it's a great service that we provide. However, at this point in time, we cannot, because we do still have those continued costs that we will incur.
Of the 639 kids, how many of those pay?
At this point in time, there were 64 that were assessed the fee. So you have to think some of those are rural. Some of those are free reduced lunch that would qualify. So, within that realm. Preschool, at this point in time, we do not assess preschool. So 137 of the students we do not assess. So for multitude of reasons, but there are 64 right now that are assessed.
Is that preschool routes, is that probably our highest cost because we're going door to door every kid?
Let me look at that and get back to you on that, and I can send that out to everyone. I can kind of send out what the routes cost us so that you have that broken down. Yeah, I can send that out, because I do not have that off the top of my
I
head.
would also be interested in the cost per student.
Yep.
Because I don't think probably your 160 is gonna come close to covering the cost.
No, and we know that it doesn't.
I think that's a great point, and the only addition that I would add to this is just that, as we all know, in the last several months, we've seen our cost for transportation were going up before. But we know that as we start to look forward as far as we can, and we've seen the costs go up for darn near everything, that's gonna continue to happen, and especially with this. And the bottom line is, I really wish we didn't have to increase our costs, but it's a service that we provide, and that service costs us money, and in order to provide it, we're going to have to continue to charge more to provide it. Otherwise, we're going to have to discuss other options. So I understand that it's a pull from parents, and I hate that, but at the same time, it's a service we provide, and it costs money to provide it, so we have to do something to try and at least recoup some of it, knowing we probably won't get all of it.
What do some of the other like-sized districts as far as transportation, do they provide in-town busing, do they not? I'm just curious.
It depends. Crete
Because
provides
Lincoln doesn't anymore,
in
right?
town. I think Lincoln does some,
But not what they used to.
not what they used to, and you have seen districts decrease. I know that Crete provides in town, I think Fairbury provides, I'm trying to remember what Kim told me. I think they provide some in town. I'm not sure if it's as much as what we provide, because we provide a lot of in-town pickups.
Mhm.
And a lot of it, it's for our elementary kids, to make sure that they get to school.
Have we always allowed a monthly payment plan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mhm.
because I think that's important to let parents know that, because I just don't recall, every year looking at that paperwork, seeing that.
It
And then I
will
think
not
it's-
be on there, they just
okay,
need to
just-
contact us.
okay.
And that's the thing, is if you contact Renee, because Renee's the person you work with, and maybe we can add that on there,
Yeah,
is just,
Then you see that number, it's kind of scary, but,
Yep.
but you can make monthly payments and that'll help families out. then.
yes, yeah. So we can add that to that registration form. So this will be I will get those questions answered, and then this will be a May board approval because we want to start registration right away. So after we approve, we will on that Tuesday be sending out registration packets because we found out last year it was much better when we had students register before they left for the next year. So we got quite a few parents, so it was good.
And I would assume with obviously the increase in diesel prices and just everything, our current contract is very good, with only a potential for a 3 to 4% increase on a yearly basis. So,
Yes.
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I will tell you that First Student has reached out to all the area schools and said, as superintendents, we all got emails that asked if we would be willing to help cover some of the increased costs we're seeing in that specific area of pay and, gas prices. And, the response was pretty much the same across the board, that we have a contract, we'll honor our contract. So,
That was worth a try, huh?
It
Yeah.
was. Okay, so moving on now to the K-5 social studies curriculum. During the Americanism update at the April board meeting, we did talk about having materials ready for you to look at. We have materials, however, we have not made a decision. Our teachers were really having discussions and had great discussions about both texts that you are looking at. So you have McGraw-Hill as one of the companies. Savas or Savas, however you say it, is the other one. And they both liked different features about the text. So we have we've signed up for 2 webinars, which will occur next week, and we will hopefully have the recommendation to the board at the May board meeting, is what we were looking at. So as you look at these resources, the Savas resources, the teachers stated that they thoroughly enjoyed. The information is very specific, provides a great guide for new and experienced teachers, provides guiding questions for teachers, which challenge all students at their level. It's very aligned to the Nebraska state standards, touches nicely on reading and science components, provides a reader's theater. Their learning objectives and activities are noted throughout the teacher's guide and provide in-depth views of the objectives. There's great EL aspects, our English learner aspects. There's project-based learning opportunities. One of the concerns with the Savas piece is it seems more kid-like, so might be better with younger learners. So our 3rd grade teachers really like the Savas pieces. 4th and 5th grade were like, this is too kiddish. We don't necessarily like it. As we look at the McGraw-Hill pieces, the information the teachers really liked was very specific, provides a great guide for new and experienced teachers, provides guiding questions for teachers, which challenge all students to their levels. You see that was very similar to the other text. Provide a graphic magazine to reach all types of readers. There are many journal and writing prompts to promote writing across the curriculum. Activities promote higher order thinking, note-taking skills, making connections. Great English learner aspects as well. Vocabulary component is stronger with McGraw-Hill. One of the area of concern was there are maybe some 3rd grade standards that are not covered as much, so the teachers might have to supplement a little bit more in 3rd grade. I did ask them to check that out because one of the parts I want to look at is all textbooks. There's no perfect textbook out there, no perfect resource that you have. So you have to supplement some. But if I'm having to supplement over 40 to 50% of my text, that's a lot. We should not be buying that resource. So those are the things that I wanted to check on before our next meeting. So they are diving deeper into that and making sure that whatever we purchase, if the McGraw-Hill is the one we'd like to go with, that it's good to go for that 3rd grade level as well. So we also are reviewing the text that we teach for Nebraska history because 4th grade is very strong in Nebraska history. The book that we are looking at is the Nebraska Adventure, the second edition, which is currently what we use. So we're looking at an upgraded version of what we currently use. I have an online access to that, so if you would like to come in and view that, or look at that, let me know, and we can figure out a time so I can show you what that has. Or you can stop by a school, or actually let me know and I can get you the current version of what we have for that Nebraska history. So, we are excited, and I think our teachers are ready to learn a little bit more and, see what we can come up with.
And it's not a possibility to purchase one set K through 5 for the younger students and keep McGraw-Hill for 4, 5? Is
We
that
could
not
look
a
at
is
something
that not a
at-
possibility?
We could, right now, I will tell you, we are not looking at purchasing anything for K2, only because using textbooks for K2 is not the most popular thing. They like to do a lot of hands-on, a lot of project-based, a lot of exploration, discussion, and so they use a bunch of other things. I don't wanna purchase a textbook where only 10% of the book will be utilized, or it will be utilized 10% of the
It
time.
just said K5, so I didn't know
Yes,
what
it's
exactly.
K5, we're
Okay.
looking at with K2, they're looking very specifically at just building their own curriculum, so I will be working with the teachers, K2. But that is one thing I've thought about is, if third grade is really sold, and we say, you know, McGraw-Hill third grade, they're having struggles because they are not as aligned, do we look at two? I don't like to buy two different textbooks, but I know that I could. The other thing that I will tell you, if you look at the McGraw-Hill one right here, the one thing you notice is this is a hardbound book,
Uh-huh.
okay? The
It's gonna
others are
last
all,
longer.
it's gonna last longer, and I told him, I said, there is a reality that we live with. I said, your reality with social studies, unfortunately, we don't replace social studies as much as we do reading and math, because social studies sometimes gets overlooked, or it gets put on another budget cycle, we'll push it back, because it's easier to push back. I mean, it is not, it is one of those things I will continue to push for, but there are some times where you just cannot fund this every 7 years. And so those are the things that I did tell the teachers, is that we would love to, but you also have to understand that there might be a time, because in 7 years, we don't know, you know, Jason and I may be on to bigger and better things, retirement, no, not yet. But we don't know what will happen in 7 years, so those are the things that I did tell them, that this is more durable. The other thing is those reproducibles, year eight, so we can't buy it in year 8. What are you gonna do then? So there are some other pieces that they are looking at too, to help them kind of guide them in those decisions as well.
So what are we looking at budget-wise to replace these? How much is it gonna cost to replace them?
Budget-wise I just have a proposal, because I haven't asked them for proposals. We kind of look at what we're looking at first, and then look at how many copies I'm gonna need, whether we're gonna do online versus, hardbound. But for the Nebraska Adventure for 4th grade, you're looking at 20 grand right there just for that one. So I would say the others will run the same, and it'll be probably a $60,000 to $70,000 purchase for this one.
Can someone tell me why Minnesota exports so many needles? That is the oddest thing I've ever seen.
Needles, like sewing needles?
It just says needles, I mean, like Iowa's corn, Nebraska's beef, there's multiple states that have airplanes, they have medical supplies, cars. Minnesota is needles.
I have no idea, we'd have to search that one.
Yeah.
Mine to
Look
Google.
when you get home.
I will.
Just keep you up to date.
Yeah,
I know, I gotta find that out.
exactly.
That was-
Is that with a mail?
It's
Roger,
Yeah.
it is.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it might be medical
But
needles.
it's that they export it,
I don't know.
that's
We'd
their
have to
number
do
one
some-
export.
I will write that down
I'm
and do some
Googling it for
research.
you, Doris.
Huh?
Thank you,
I'll have
Erin.
an
What?
answer
I thought that
soon.
was interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what page you were on.
Yeah, I think it was Royce.
Oh, I'm gonna take them home and read them. I'm curious.
So there are materials here, if you want to know more let me know, and I will be more than happy to get you anything else that you would like to look at.
Is that complete now?
Yes.
Okay.
We're waiting on you.
Do you have any more urgent questions?
Stop laughing, we can move on. We are gonna look at the 4,000 series in policy with Mr. Alexander.
So basically, keeping it very short and simple, the 4,000 policies that you received in the March meeting and the April board meeting update, they've remained unchanged. So I don't really have a whole lot for you outside of the fact that we'll be asking for approval of those in the May meeting, which will then just leave us with the 5,000 policies left to do in the coming months. So
No, that's done. This is it.
this is it, that's right, we did the 5,000 approval last month, so thank you for the correction. So this will be it.
Done with it.
Yeah. Really over policy.
Unless you're all interested in doing some more.
Now I have other research to do.
Okay. That's it,
That's all?
that's all. It's- Unless there's questions.
What did you tell us about him?
The-
The remains unchanged.
They're unchanged from the stack that was handed to you in the previous March meeting, so.
We're still looking for that needle.
I know, I'm just like,
I'm trying to be brief, Doris, to help you out time-wise.
okay, so then you're gonna talk to us a little bit about the speaker request form?
Yes, so it's nice to have people that are willing to help out, and we have a great team in central office. Danielle attended an NASB, school board information, workshop for administrative assistants. From that workshop, she gleaned a little bit of, well, she gleaned a lot of knowledge, but she gleaned a look at what's called a speaker request card that a lot of schools are going to using at their board meetings to just help facilitate the process of people who want to speak at board meetings in public forum. And right now, we have a nice pamphlet that we give people, but this speaker request form is similar to what we use for committee of the whole meetings. We already do that for this meeting pretty much. It just streamlines it a little more and provides a little more in-depth information about anybody that would want to speak. The idea behind the cards is that they're turned in at the beginning of the meeting, and then the speakers are given priority in the order that they turn them in. So essentially, let's say all of us were at a board meeting and wanted to talk, we would fill this out, and then they would be turned in the order in which you turn them out, and that's the order that the speakers would come up in public forum and speak. And then that also allows the president at the board meeting to be able to identify that person and call them by name as they come up. So it just helps create a more formal approach to public forum that has been recommended to Danielle. And I think at that, you found out also that a lot of other schools, or some other schools, are starting to use these too in the public forum section, so.
The other thing they added is if people ask questions, you guys not supposed to engage with them, it allows us easy way to be like, oh yeah, so-and-so talked, like, note-taking on it and do more immediate follow-up with people that may have an information request.
So what is done with information after the board meeting? Like, is this filed away, or we keep this on record as, like, who spoke?
I put who addresses the board in the minutes, and then these I usually put in binder with the minutes, just because I have them.
Good question. So basically, what we're doing is just showing these to you. We'd like to implement the usage of these cards, starting in the May meeting, just to help. If there are people that want to speak, this is just the process that they follow.
So we can have a file for the troublemakers?
Or for the ones that want to come and tell us what a great job we're doing.
Yeah,
Great,
yeah, there we go. Two different files.
Can they
That'll be
only address, I know it says here agenda item or topic to be addressed, but are they only permitted to speak about items on the agenda?
Technically, no.
No.
Okay,
They can speak
all right.
about anything.
Mhm.
But they have to be physically here in person.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
What if they don't turn this in before the meeting starts?
We can still allow, they still have a right to speak. We would just allow, we would ask that they would fill it out.
Fill it
so-
out, finally.
Yeah,
Just
when
like
they
that.
leave, yeah. And it'll probably take a while, so, but the idea is just that, like Danielle said, that way we have record of their comments, we have record of who it was, their comments. And then if there's questions that they ask that, because as you know, in board meetings, it's a business meeting held in public. You technically don't engage with a lot of those folks because that's not your role at the board meeting. This allows us then to go back, if they had questions or whatever, and reach back out to them and engage them if so needed.
And it's nice if they request information, if we have their email, we
Yeah.
can easily, send that out
Easily
to them.
found.
Right.
This is a good.
Okay?
Next up is administrator and classified salaries.
Okay, so in your packet of information, I think we have some documents that will be handy to have in front of you as we do this. I believe you have an executive summary, which I will reference. I think you have a current hourly pay schedule breakout, and then I think you have what we will consider as being proposed. Am I correct on that? Okay. So in reference to those three sheets in this topic, it would just be handy if you have those in front of you. I've been working closely with Jackie Bornemeyer, business associate for the district. And we've been working on coming together with a package for you to think about, ask questions about, and then seek approval for at May, simply from the standpoint that as we near this time of the year, the Blue Cross Blue Shield rates have to be locked in by the end of May in order for us to gain, to accentuate full best rate possibilities when it comes to the health insurance benefits that we provide. So as we get here, it's important for us to talk about this and try and answer as many questions as we can, because Jackie really needs that to be approved in May to lock those rates in for Blue Cross Blue Shield. So in terms of staffing, really, we've negotiated, as you know, with certified staff or teachers, and that was approved, and that package is sitting out there, but that leaves three groups of individuals left for us to talk about in this meeting tonight. And that basically revolves around the classified staff, the other contracted staff, and then the administrators. And we tried to, on this executive summary, we tried to explain what those different groups are, but if at any time it becomes confusing, please don't hesitate to ask. So essentially, when it comes to certified staff, you can see, and Janet reported on this in the meeting that we approved it, the total budget result for the impact of certified staff negotiations with a $400 base salary increase and insurance increases results in $416,537.27 impact to the budget for next year. So when we talked about, I'm gonna jump down and probably talk about administrators first, because I want to, they're probably the easiest, and then we'll save classified for the last because it's probably the most difficult. But administrators, that certified staff package equated to just over 3%, so about 3.14%. That $416,537, that's what the total package increase was. Administrators, I'm proposing to you tonight, asking for you to give consideration to a 2.15% package increase, which is $46,918.32. So that's the impact for administration. And that is what we'd be talking about for administrators for an overall package increase for them. That increase is not right. That is, that's on there wrong. It should be, and that's my fault, because I looked at it today and said, look right. It will be an overall increase of 2.98%. That's total package. 2.515 is salary increase. 2.98 is total package after insurance is thrown in on there. So if you just correct that on your sheet, I apologize for that. So So that's what we're asking for administrators, that's the overall result of the cost of the district. We did look at some other options, but felt like in trying to keep everybody as close together at that 3% mark as we could, that made sense. Moving on to other contracted staff. This is just a group of employees that are contracted individuals who are in supervisory or quasi-administrative roles. Example of that would be head buildings and grounds. We have kitchen supervisor, and so those are the people that fit into that. There's only 6 of them, so they have a very minimal impact on the overall budget, but the overall percentage salary increase for them, I believe, is 2.58. And let me get to my papers here. Their overall package would be 2.97% when you throw insurance in on that. So that's what we'd be recommending for other contracting. That just leaves us with classified staff, which again, as I said earlier, is probably the most difficult package to talk about, because as you've heard me say, and I think as even Roy referenced this evening, one of the things that we've been faced with throughout the course of the year, and as we've come out of the COVID or the pandemic, is trying to keep up with the private sector and the increase in hourly salaries that has taken place. And so, as we have talked about this, really the package that we've come up with tonight to present to you is designed to cover a few things that you've heard me talk about before. One is to address that gap between the private sector salaries and the public sector. Specifically in the public sector, we're talking about us as a school. The next thing is that as we take into consideration the need to address those starting wages, we also have to keep in mind that as we address that piece, there's people that have been with us for multiple years that we need to look at, because we can't have people who come in the first year making more than people that have been with us for 25 years. So we've tried to account for both of those situations. And then finally, the hourly wage increase that at some point, I can't help but think, is going to jump extensively from the $7.25 it is now to a $14 or $15 an hour package. So keeping that in mind, if that were to happen today, it would be a significant impact on our budget, like $1 million hit. So we have to kind of somewhat try to plan for that as we move forward. So that will bring me in discussion to the current 21-22 hourly pay schedule that you see in front of you for staff. And I believe that one is all black. Did they get color copies today? A little bit, okay. The proposal that we worked on, and we worked on 3 different options for you to consider. We worked on a 10-cent increase, we worked on a 13-cent per hour increase, and we worked on a 15-cent per hour increase. The other part of this package includes the actual steps where people come in and start, and the actual step that they reach maximum pay on after a certain number of years that they've been here. So for argument's sake, if you'll look on your current salary and the proposal that we have for the 15-cent increase, if you look at the instructional support and you look at a general para underneath that category at 0205, general para 0205, typically in the past, when they apply and enter our district on a first year term, they start out on step 3, which over on the right hand side you can see is $12.65 an hour. In this proposal, we would be saying that for a general para application person that's entering our district, we would start them on step 4 from now on with this package. So it's not huge, but it's the difference of $12.65 to $13.14. So it's better. Again, it's not $18 like starting wage like some of the private sectors out there, but it's better. The other portion is that if we stick with that general para, you will see that in the past they've maxed out at step 13, which means that would be a maximum pay of $16.21 an hour. In this proposal, we're saying to reward longevity and hopefully hold on to people a little longer, we'll max that out at step 14, which is $16.82 an hour. So it's about, for lack of a better, for rounding, it's about 15 to 16 cents more for staying on that many years. So really, this package is designed to do a couple different things. And we, in that executive summary, we tried to lay out for you the discussions that we had at the 10 cent, the 15 cent, and the 15 cent area, and then the bump of where we start people and the bump of where we max people out overall, and show you what the total impact to the district budget would be for that. With that all said, I'm gonna stop. Are there any questions?
So if I'm applying to be a para, no matter, let's say I worked at Southern for 10 years and I've come into Beatrice, I still start at step 4? Or does that years of experience play into?
If they can give us documentation of their experience level from a different school, we will honor that. And basically, all we need is a letter from somebody at that school stating, that signed, stating that they've been there for 5 years or whatever the case may be. But I think that's just the right thing to do.
I think this is definitely something we need to do. Again, as you mentioned, the private sector, we're doing this as well. We're looking at this because you can't hire people, they can go work at McDonald's for $15 an hour minimum.
Yeah.
Now, what are the benefits? I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
so when you look at this, especially when you look at the food service side, you're not even covering what the fast food's paying,
Right. We spend a lot of time with people who apply at the district, and we need to get better. I will openly admit, we need to get better. In this summer, we really intend to be better about talking to people about the benefits that come with educational employment, which is weekends off, holidays off, pretty decent hours, It's a challenge like any job, but
Snow days.
snow days once in a while, if there's snow. Yeah.
So that, I don't know if I'm allowed to speak, but yeah, people don't look at benefits. It doesn't make sense to me
Yeah.
at all. I don't get it.
Today's generation, it's getting even harder
Yeah,
to explain those
they
benefits.
don't,
I think this is nicely done. I mean, I think it,
We've heard recruit and retain at almost every meeting that we've had in the last year. And this addresses that. I don't think there's any option other than the one that you recommended.
And I guarantee-
One of the things that we talked about, Jason and I talked about, is if you don't have this support staff, your school doesn't run. I mean, you need to have
They're
those
worth
people.
this
Yeah.
and more,
yes.
at least this.
So the activity bus driver in red, is that the 3 asterisks down here where that's full-time positions?
No.
There's 3 asterisks, and the 3 asterisks down here, it says, based on what we know as of 4/28/22 includes 2 FTE positions. So those 3 asterisks do not correspond with those 3 asterisks?
I think that's for this page right here.
Yeah.
Lisa, my
Two
best
lines up
guess
from
on
that.
this is Jackie, is it's a big jump. It was at 4 and 4 and it jumped to 7.
Yep, that's what it is.
Okay.
The 3 asterisks on the executive summary reference what's on the executive summary.
Okay.
The activity bus driver, again, like everything, that's a position where if you take that, it's, you're driving a lot of routes and you'd be maybe gone 8 hours at a time. And so, in order to try and help recruit people, we've decided that instead of starting them on step 4 and maxing them at step 4, we bump that up to 7-7 to try and help find people.
Yeah, I think this is great because I guarantee all the other schools in the area are gonna be making these moves too, and we have to recruit and be prepared because, it's what everyone's gonna do.
So on the basis of what's in front of you, we would be recommending at the meeting in May, these approved rates. And for specifically the classified staff, I would like to see us get to that 15 cents and then make the adjustments in the pay schedule as recommended, so.
Did you have a percentage on that?
It is, I do. So the classified at 15 cents and those pay increases will be right at 3%. than probably we've had, I don't know, we'll see.
Building project update.
Okay, so building project updates. Here are the highlights of what has transpired and where we currently are in the development of the project. There have been a lot of things that have happened in the last couple of weeks, so, yeah, I'm glad we're here tonight to update you. First of all, after the selection committee met on March 9th, our attorney sent Johnson Controls a contract to begin negotiating. As you all know, we tried to keep you abreast of that. The SNEA approved Johnson Controls as the top-rated construction company to start negotiations with. During that time period, up until about April 12th, myself or the attorney from the Prairie Law Firm, Derek Aldridge, we got no response from Johnson Controls. Consequently, almost 5 weeks of time slipped by during that time period, and we had no response, no progress, and no discussion on the contract negotiations. So the timeline has become very concerning to me as the person in charge of moving this project forward. And essentially, that timeline, I think, to everybody that was present at the pre-site visit, the interviews from the beginning has been clearly communicated and understandably an aggressive timeline. But also, it was made very clear that we needed a contract with a company that could make those things happen with the timeline that was proposed. Consequently, at the interviews, we were told by every company that interviewed during the selection committee process that they could meet those timelines. Every committee that was interviewed said we can meet those timelines. I'm concerned at this point. I became concerned. We reached out to JCI, asked them, you know, we haven't heard anything, what's going on. Just this past Monday, we received, or late Friday evening, maybe Monday morning, I don't remember exactly, we received a red line version of the first part of the contract, but still no details in terms of expected cost of work, all those types of things. So I guess in essence what it came down to is time is slipping away too quickly, and with that we called another SNEA meeting to talk this over. Without delaying any further, the SNEA got together, they granted us permission to terminate negotiations with Johnson Controls at that point and engage Houseman Construction in a negotiations process. So essentially we said, we can't wait any longer to begin these conversations that should have started 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. And so that's where we're at. The SNEA did grant that permission to terminate those negotiations. We did that. We called and said, we're sorry, but we've got to get moving, and this is just taking too long to get started. At that point, we engaged Houseman Construction, and that happened late Monday afternoon. We talked to them and emphasized, asked them, could they still operate under the timelines that we need to operate under to keep going? Because the reality is, at the back end of this, we have ESSER funds that we are responsible for making sure we meet that timeline on the back end, and that was made clear to everybody. Houseman Construction, which was the next top-rated construction management company in the selection process, was contacted. A contract was put in front of them, and within 24 to 48 hours, that contract has been signed and approved. So at this point, the person that's left to sign it is me. That's just because we got it back today. So Houseman signed the contract with little to no required change on our contract and what we were told their rates would be, and has made every effort to keep us on our time schedule originally set. Now with that said, I'm not saying that we're going to be able to break ground in July like we had initially planned. And part of that's going to be because of the 5 weeks that slipped by. A lot of it will depend now on how quickly we can get Houseman uploaded onto the project, we can get through schematic architectural design phase, which we're about 80 to 90% complete. I met with the architects on Wednesday, and get Houseman on board to make that happen. So that's kind of where we are in relationship to construction manager at risk process, the decisions that have been made. And that's where we are in regards to what the SNEA has approved us to be able to do. Also, in reference to the SNEA meeting that was just held this past Monday at noon, they approved giving Derek and I the authority to negotiate a financial package with Pinnacle Bank. That was also part of what we needed to be discussing with Johnson Controls, and it wasn't happening. So in very short order, Pinnacle Bank has made very aggressive and sweeping moves to help us in this project on our behalf, to get a financing package figured out. So I should be able to report those details to you. I'm anticipating in the very next couple of days and possibly, hopefully have something wrapped up. If it looks promising, then the SNEA has given Derek and I authority to negotiate that and finalize that, sign whatever documents we need to get that going. So we stay on track. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure if Pinnacle could make it happen, not because they wouldn't want to, but simply because of the needs we have for a long-term debt service, a 40-year term, and a rate that keeps us in that sweet spot where we can make that annual payment. And from preliminary discussions that we've had, it sounds like Pinnacle Bank's gonna be able to do that for us. So we're very excited about that, and we're excited about the opportunity that it's local. So, in regards to the building, that's, the only other thing that I would add to that is that the architect meeting, I drove to Omaha and met with them Wednesday just to work closer with the discussion that we had internally about the actual design of the building and kind of get that more narrowed down in conversation that we've had, so we can get through that schematic design process even faster and hopefully keep the ball moving. The next step in that will be get out of the architectural design and move into the construction design phase. And then after that, next steps will be to finalize the documents on the financial package when they're ready. Work with the architects to move closer to the construction design phase and get all necessary documents advertised for that financial package to have to sit out there for a boiling period is what they call it a lot of times before we can actually move forward with finalizing the project. And so at the very earliest, at this point, if everything stays on track the way we've lined it out and explained to everybody, we could meet those requirements, say mid to early June, and still hopefully break ground in July. But we're gonna have to wait on some soil reports and things like that to make sure that we have it done. So I will entertain any questions that you might have about that at this time. I will tell you that I do have Brian Tronick, new Pinnacle Bank president, on board to come and talk to you at the May meeting about the details of that package, because there's a lot to it. It's really, really in-depth, and to be honest with you, sitting around a table like this with about 6 bankers was probably like them coming to parent-teacher conferences, sitting around a table with 6 teachers. There was a lot of lingo back and forth, so it'd be good to hear from Pinnacle what that will be.
How was the discussions with the city around the roads? Started, moving forward?
Yes, so we did, I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot that as part of my report. We did meet with all of the city utility people. We met with the city engineers. We met with Tobias, and then also with the engineers from the architect side and the architect himself. And we have a good idea of how everything's gonna lay out electrical and utility wise, so that's being worked on as we speak. And then with the streets, we've met twice with just different ideas on suggestions, and I think we have to talk about plating that area out there, and we have to talk about plans that the city's going to have in terms of what their final plans are gonna be, because I know at one time they were talking about redoing Lincoln Street from 7th to 22nd, and now they're wondering if it might make more sense to just do the opposite end and work their way back. So I don't know if that will happen, but there's been discussions and meetings held on that. And then between the engineers, they're talking about that right now as well.
Are there already sewer lines out there?
There are lines running down the ditches. The water supply is one of the big questions, because there's water on one side. But if that water would happen to, if we'd experience a mainline break like whoever experiences that, right? If that would happen at the north end, that would be our only water supply, so we're talking about routing that in a loop with another water supply coming from over on
East
the
side from the high school.
east,
Mhm.
west side.
So,
East.
No, it's east because it runs along
Yeah, you're right.
Third Street.
Yeah, east side,
12.
you're right. So it would go, that way it'd be in a continual loop, so if we lost a main supply on one end, we wouldn't have to cancel school because we'd have it coming from the other way. So much to the students' dismay, we would still have school. So those discussions about electrical, utility engineering, street engineering, all that's in the works. I know that our engineer, or the architectural engineer is working closely with the city engineers to get all that in line and ready to go.
I know there was a concern on whether we would be able to have enough square footage for a pre-K through 5. Do you know at this point that with Hausman, if it would be within our budget to achieve what we're wanting to get?
I will tell you that that's a great question, and what it's gonna come down to is the gross maximum price, and it's also going to come down to construction costs, product and material costs, because right now we're figuring everything on a certain per square footage cost, and we're hoping that doesn't continue to creep up. Once we get Hausman on board in the next couple of weeks to meet with the architects, our hope is that within 2 to 4 weeks, we'll be able to get closer to that GMP and make that decision.
Like,
Yep. There was one other thing I was going to tell you. Forgot it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If you have any, don't be afraid to ask, or email or phone call or whatever.
Exciting news.
Yeah.
This is a proper time for public questions, comments on any topic. Would anyone like to address the board? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that the Board of Education of District 15 adjourn.
Second.
second.
All those in favor say aye. This meeting is adjourned.